Welcome back to the GiveNOLA Day Playbook. I'm your host, Maya McGee. Today we're closing out this series with something most organizations underinvest in. What happens after GiveNOLA Day ends? Here's the reality. The donation is not the finish line, it's the starting line. What you do in the days and weeks after GiveNOLA Day determines whether a donor gives once or becomes a longtime supporter of your mission. In this episode, we're talking about how to thank donors in a way that builds relationships, how to follow up with intention, and how to make sure GiveNOLA Day feeds into your year-round fundraising strategy. And if you haven't downloaded the GiveNOLA Day Playbook Worksheet yet, it's not too late. You can find it in our show notes or at comfystone.com/GiveNOLA Day Playbook. Now let's go meet our panel. Welcome back to the final episode of our GiveNOLA Day Playbook series. I have Diana, Megan, and Rachel here with me today for one last time where we're going to be talking about retention and what happens after GiveNOLA Day. So this is a question for all three of you, but what can orgs do after GiveNOLA Day is over? Diana, do you want to walk us through what Be Loud does?
Yeah, so on GiveNOLA Day, we have what is called the Thankathon, which is a really good time. Our Be Loud DJs, who are middle school and high schoolers, are actually at our studio, and they are making phone calls to all the donors to say thank you. We also have parents who will be there. Yeah, people love getting these calls. They leave, mostly it's messages because people don't pick up their phones, as we know. We also have parents there, community members who are writing thank you notes. So every single person who donates to our campaign will get a handwritten thank you note. And oftentimes it is from a parent or a community member in Be Loud, so that these are really personalized and going to them. But we all sit together and do this. I'm usually working with a group of volunteers then to also text people who haven't given yet and really making more asks. So again, I love this sort of community feeling of all of us are working on this. Every supporter is getting a message from Be Loud that day about what we're doing, and also just to thank them for being a part of our team as well. And it really makes the day feel more like, again, just something that Be Loud does together. We are all in community, asking people to give, and then lifting up the young people within our community. It's a great reflection of who we are.
That's beautiful. Megan, what do you think?
Have you trademarked Thankathon, or can I steal that idea?
You can steal it.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I love that idea. I would reiterate that and so much more. I mean, what a unique way to say thank you, to get the kids involved,
right,
and to really reiterate not just your mission, but also like what you're giving back into the community. I think that makes people feel so good about what they've done. I would say too, we've talked about it a lot, but we're building momentum for the rest of our year. And so one thing that we always forget that I know can feel cumbersome after you've just finished a big campaign, but you have to remember to debrief with your team, schedule that calendar, invite for yourself now, have somebody take the notes, and also don't forget about the analytics. The evaluation of all of your efforts is what helps you build and grow for the next year, so that you're not just throwing spaghetti on the wall year after year, or, what is it, reinventing the wheel.
True.
There's a lot of different ways to really assess your success from that year that are tangible. Like, I would go back into your social media analytics. Any of us with social media have access to that information. Certainly looking at your giving levels and thinking through year over year, how have we grown? What rate of growth? Are we happy with this rate of growth and our success on this day? And then, also going all the way back to the beginning, think about what analytics, what data you want to track throughout the campaign, because some of it, you don't want to get to the end of the campaign and say, oh, I wish we had actually counted how many phone calls we made, or I wish we'd counted how many text messages got sent out.
Yeah.
Set that expectation first when you're writing your strategic plan, going all the way back to episode 1. Set that expectation first and communicate it to your team, your ambassadors, and don't forget to ask them, hey, can you count how many text messages you sent, or whatever that point may be that you want to keep track of.
Yeah, all that matrix is super important, I think, to keep, because it also helps you set up for next year. We talked about future self in a previous episode, but like knowing those matrix and what worked, what didn't work, best practices makes it easier for you next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think towards that idea of if you go back to how you defined success for your organization at the beginning, when you define success, what is that going to look like and how are you going to know if you got there? Understanding that at the beginning could identify, well, success for us will be getting 10% of text messages to be a gift. That would mean, okay, we need to count how many text messages we have. So I think that's it all goes in together of like understanding what success looks like and how you're going to build that. From a technical standpoint, the foundation and Mighty Cause will send every donor an acknowledgement receipt of their donation. So they will have the information they need in terms of the IRS and having their donation information. That is a very sort of like technical, let's call it a cold communication.
Right.
It's not going to be cold. It's very friendly, but it's not donor stewardship because what we're doing is doing the like legally required acknowledgement. Where an organization can step in is with that stewardship and follow up. I love the idea of a thankathon day of. That seems fun because, again, it's an online event. So providing people who can come together in community a space to be together is always great. If that doesn't work for your organization, what is the next time maybe a group of people will be together? When's your board meeting? Could you have the board members sign some thank you notes at the beginning of the meeting and mail those out? On the back end of your profile, you'll have the information a donor shared. That could be their phone number, their email address, their mailing address. And this, again, is sort of like we've talked about is where do you connect with your folks? Is it snail mail is really effective? Is that the great way to showcase your work? Is that, do you have a great photo of your impact? Do you have perhaps an already printed brochure that you can put a Post-it note on that says, thanks so much for your GiveNOLA Day donation. We're excited to keep in touch. Something like that. Or is an email with an embedded video showing the work you do a great follow-up? I would strongly encourage that the organization do an individualized, and by that I mean specific to the organization and individualized to each donor, thank you follow-up. Ideally, I would think within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I do want to share in January of 2026, I got my first thank you from an organization I donated to on GiveNOLA Day 2025. And you know what? In it, it said, so sorry, better late than never. And you know what? I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
So very effective. So it is never too late to say thank you. I think that's true in life and definitely also true in donor stewardship. So I think, you know, whatever makes the most sense for your organization for what success looks like and your capacity. But if you want to see if you can cultivate a deeper relationship and more support, whether that is additional gifts or perhaps future board members, folks engaging in your programming, you've got to start reaching out in that individual contact. Yeah. You might include something like, we're going to add you to our newsletter, or you're going to get 3 more emails from us, and we hope you click on something within them. And then you'd have to have set up the right identifications of what success looks like to track that. But I think every organization, when you are making that communications plan, having what your follow-up is going to be is very important.
I love that you use the term stewardship because I think that is a important like word to put in your brain about like, this isn't just a single donation. We want to build a relationship with this donor, and that takes some stewardship. And even if you don't have the capacity to do a thankathon, like what is your next touch point with this person? Is it the board members sending handwritten thank you notes? Is it an email? Is it what can you do to make one, let them know, one, that we appreciate their gift, and 2, what their gift, the impact of it. Because I'm sure the DJs, when they make a call, say, thank you so much. I'm really excited that Be Loud gets this donation that I get to continue to work with Be Loud. I'm sure there's some type of personal feel that goes into those messages. And like, how do you, for your organization, translate that little bit of personalization and following up on sharing the impact of the gift with the donor?
Right. And I think you can, if it's easiest, you can put everything together and say, collectively, we received this amount of money from this many donors, which will let us do this. And, as an example, and like, you're a part of this. And thank you so, so much. And like, welcome to our community, and that sort of positions you to say, we're going to keep in touch. And like, that's a great sort of like a ask to be a friend, not a ask for a further gift. And that kind of variation in how you're engaging with folks is really important so they don't feel a little drained or only seen as like a potentially financial resource.
Right. And I think that's how you get away from having the moment of feeling like, oh, all I do is ask. If you are cultivating a friendship or a relationship with this donor, then it's not, oh, I only call you when that friend that only calls you when you need something. You don't want to be that organization that only reaches out to a donor when you're asking for money. You want to give them updates. You want to have good things to say about what's happening with the organization.
I want to piggyback on that and just say too, like, don't be afraid to have some fun. You want your thank yous to be representative of your organization. And if your organization is one that's like silly or funny, or, maybe you're serving kids in our community, there are all kinds of ways that you can honor donations at different levels. Just for example, I love a sticker. Like, send me a cute sticker that you only give out at GiveNOLA Day, for donors, and that changes every year, or there's all kinds of like, I love with a thankathon, like having kids like fill out the postcards, send me that postcard. You bet it's going on my fridge.
I was just going to say, I love a postcard. So like a postcard with like the organization's logo or picture, like that would go on the fridge. That would go in my postcard collection. I would keep that. I would love to receive a postcard.
Oh, adorable. And also, while we're talking about it, I really want to reiterate the importance of the CEO's personal touch. I think we have a lot on us as leaders, in our community. Certainly our CEOs are really busy. And so it's important to kind of outsource your thanks. But sometimes I just notice over the years that sometimes it comes at the risk of forgetting the importance of that CEO reaching out. And if you are a CEO, of course, making sure that you're reaching out to those higher level donors, I think that's going to be inherently expected. And it's not always an email, right? Like sometimes we have to pick up the phone. Sometimes we have to ask them for coffee. Use this opportunity to invite folks to your site for tours, for personal tours. It doesn't have to be a meeting. What do you have to talk about, right? But maybe we're going to walk folks around and we're going to invite them to that event and give them that personal one-on-one time later with our leadership. The other side of that is, even for smaller donations, I am thinking of a CEO that I've worked with in the past. I give $20 to that organization like every year on GiveNOLA Day because I don't have a lot of money. But he has never missed the opportunity to text me and say thank you, which I just can't believe because they get, I think, like y'all, hundreds of donations. It just, and I never forget it. And I'll always give if I can.
I think also like, what are the other opportunities for engagement is a great idea. When are you already bringing people together? Like, yes, if you've got somebody who's like blowing your donation levels out of the water, yes, maybe a personal tour. But if you have an open house or you have a day of service or you have sort of any other opportunity that you already have programmed, being like, hey, as a 2026 GiveNOLA Day supporter, we'd love to invite you. Please RSVP here using this code. And then you can see that this donor from GiveNOLA Day re-engaged in this way. And then it might be, hey, let me give you a call and thanks so much. And is there anything else you'd like to know about the organization? Oh, you're good. Okay, cool. Bye. Or they're not even going to answer the phone. Like Diana said, most folks don't answer unknown numbers. So, but finding those ways to keep offering opportunities for continued engagement that you already have programmed are a great follow-up.
Rachel, what does Greater New Orleans Foundation provide organizations as far as data and resources post GiveNOLA Day?
Absolutely. Your donor list is going to be updated throughout the day and be available after the event. We encourage that you incorporate that information into however you manage and steward your donors. Some folks have CRM. Some folks maybe have a spreadsheet. Some folks might have a series of Post-it notes. Whatever it is, would encourage a spreadsheet. But at least incorporate those donors and their information into your system so that they can start getting routine communications and maybe just, have that column of how did they hear about us, just GND26, GiveNOLA Day 2026, something like that. And I think we've got a couple sample sort of like thank you letters and whatnot in a toolkit. I'll triple check on that before another toolkit.
Yeah, and I would add to that, make yourself a checklist. Even if there's just 4 or 5 items on it the first year, next year, you're going to be thankful that you made that checklist, and you might add a couple more items, and then your whole team will thank you over time. Just remembering what to do with that donor list. I would add it to your e-newsletter subscriber list, even create a new segment for donors. Even on social media, if you want to get technical, you can create lookalike audiences based on lists like that for paid outreach that can mimic that audience for capturing new followers.
And that's similar segment, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could really get granular with it, but having that data and really stewarding it, making sure that you're caring for it and archiving it over time makes a huge difference.
The list is, I think, crucial because in whatever capacity you work in, there are days where you're overwhelmed, right? And I need a list to remind myself, okay, I can get these 5 items done today. And I think having a list will help you just say, alrighty, these 50 people that donated, I'm going to send them these handwritten thank you cards. And if I just steward those 50 people, I can keep those 50, and then I can focus later on about growing another 50. But if I can keep these 50 engaged, where can we go with just that?
Sorry to pop the bubble, but I think statistically, you're maybe going to keep 30, maybe only 20, but even that can be successful.
Fair.
Go for it. Yeah, I mean, aim for the 50. Yeah. Aim for it, but just to say out there, it's okay if it's not everybody.
If it's not everybody sticks around.
Yeah.
Diana, we've talked a lot about converting. Is there anything else you want to add for how to convert from a GiveNOLA Day donor to a ongoing supporter?
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about as you were talking to Megan is adding to that checklist of kind of things you're going to do after is I like to keep people updated on the program that they donated to. So I really have one summer camp. Last year we talked about summer camp at Be Loud. And so after summer camp is over, then I'm going to go back to all of our donors and just send a quick text. Here's how summer camp went. Here's a couple awesome things that happened here. Here's a picture, just so that people know, here's where I gave, and then here's the direct impact that that's having. I think it completes that narrative really nicely. The other thing I'm really excited about this year is I want to make sure that we try to convert more donors into monthly donors or year-round donors in this way. And so I've often left a pretty big gap there between okay, you gave to GiveNOLA, and then I'm sort of okay, I'm not going to ask you for a while. But the research says ask again. Mm-hmm. Ask again and ask people to be monthly donors more quickly, and see if we can get people to make that shift from one-time giving to now I'm supporting this organization. I'm not going to ask everyone to be a monthly donor, but if you've given to Be Loud now 3 times, then that becomes an ask that we're making.
Yeah. It's kind of you're into us.
You're in the mix.
Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah.
Circling back to that year-round fundraising calendar, Rachel, how do you think nonprofits should look at it?
I would say it needs to be a part of the picture. Mm-hmm. If your big gala is the week before, not doubling down on bothering those same folks that have already engaged with you most recently. Sort of where does it fit within what else is occurring for your organization? It's going to be a little bit different for everybody about what makes the most sense. Because it is in early May, it might make sense to line it up with programming that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But again, if you've got something else going on, maybe it is more just, hey, it was great to see you. If you didn't have a chance to swipe that credit card one more time, here's GiveNOLA Day. There's not a reason not to share about it, but thinking about how you're sharing it within everything else you're doing. Also, I think from a cash flow perspective, depending on what kind of fiscal year an organization is on this year, because of Mighty Cause, organizations are going to receive the funds raised through the platform a little bit faster. We're anticipating them if folks sign up for the ETF, EFT, which is electronic funds transfer. We anticipate they'd receive their funds raised on the platform before the end of May. Okay. And so if you're on a June 30 fiscal year end, you're whether you're cash or accrual, you'll have it in the bank and should check that box. I know that's always a point of stress for some folks. So that could change your positioning for the beginning of the next year in terms of your fundraising goals and what you're trying to meet within this year.
Because you're right. If your ambassadors, if you have something big you just did an ask for in April and you just asked your ambassadors to push that, they can't ask that same group, their same community. All right, now turn around and donate again. So yeah, planning that strategically of what's around your organization's calendar as a whole.
I want to add to that too, thinking about after GiveNOLA Day on the back end, even if you are a nonprofit that may or may not be heavily involved with GiveNOLA Day, as consumers, as donors, we are all receiving messaging to give. And so we should probably address some donor fatigue just in general in our community after GiveNOLA Day. And so considering when is that next big event or that next big ask for your organization, certainly I wouldn't advise making too big asks, in a close time period after, but also just, considering the fact that we are all getting a lot of messaging around that time. And so one of the ways that we found to combat that is for our organizations that just can't get around the fact that their gala is the next month. That does happen. Making it something fun where it's not necessarily it doesn't sound like a donorship ask. It sounds more like a fun community event or this way to get involved. Kind of shifting that narrative just a little bit sometimes can make all the difference. That would be my advice.
We've covered a lot in the 4 episodes we've done. Does everyone have a takeaway they'd like to share for nonprofits? Should I start on the other side? Diana, do you have a takeaway?
I just really like how much we've talked about how this fits into your full year. And one thing we think a lot about at Be Loud is that GiveNOLA is a point to engage new donors and tell the story of Be Loud to new people. That's what fits into kind of our year. This is a time where it's not just about donations, but it's really about how many people can we tell the Be Loud story to.
Megan?
Define success on the front end when you're starting, and then really analyze and quantify that success in your debrief. Don't forget to really name those goals right up front and track them the whole way through.
Rachel?
I think it's really hard when you look at the 1,000 maybe organizations participating and not do some comparison. And I think that's a natural thing. But if you've defined success for your organization before the day really gets going, you'll be able to check a box for what y'all as an organization accomplished. Because there are organizations that have major giving that occurs. They've structured their giving calendars such that GiveNOLA Day is a major fundraiser for them. If that's not the situation for your organization, that's fine. Yeah. But it's hard to remember that sometimes. I think in the moment of seeing everything flying around and numbers moving and maybe yours aren't moving the way you wanted to. But, just take a breath and maybe if you want to reframe your goal for the day because that will be editable. Yeah. But, just remember the important work you do and that you hopefully have clearly and concisely and compellingly conveyed that in your profile and you've engaged some folks to help share that messaging.
Yeah. I will add my biggest takeaway, I think, from today is the year-round calendar. This year, with a lot of our nonprofit clients, I tried to meet with them early in the year at the end of last year and kind of start plotting out what their needs might be. And I don't think I put enough emphasis on where GiveNOLA Day lands in that, because talking about what's your ask right before, what's your ask right afterwards, how do we position your messaging throughout this year so that we're not overstimulating donors, or that we're positioning you to have a successful GiveNOLA Day.
I love that. I do that thought work for my clients at the end of every year. We do a lot of end of year and analytics and evaluation for each of our clients. And inevitably evaluation is going to ask the question, what does Q1 of 2026 look like? Or what does that next year look like? And so I love that idea of really starting to plant those seeds for yourself before Christmas.
Yes.
And then enjoy the holidays. And then when you get back, know, okay, we're off to the races.
Yeah.
And I think, again, for those organizations that are watching this and are like, oh my gosh, it is not before the holidays, I'm lost. That is not at all the case. You know,
Don't give up hope.
Yeah, don't give up hope at all. I think even if it's just having a conversation with one board member or a friend, even to be like, I think we could do this with GiveNOLA Day this year. If I say this to you, does that make sense? Do you get it? That can be successful, and you can put that in your profile and then figure out what it is that you're saying is success and how you would measure that and build the ship between those 2 points.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, building year over year is so important. We're not aiming for perfection here. We're just shooting for doing one more thing than we did last year. And so that's, keep track, keep those documents in place, and just one more thing, and you get there.
All right, well, we've been here with Rachel from Greater New Orleans Foundation, Megan from Gamble Communications, and Diane from Be Loud Studios. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's been really educational, and I think the nonprofits that are listening will have a lot of great takeaways and things they can apply. And I think this is a really great series. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
Thanks for watching the GiveNOLA Day Playbook. Don't forget there's a free worksheet that goes along with the full series. It covers all 4 episodes and gives a complete customizable action plan that you can take with you straight into your GiveNOLA Day campaign. Download your copy at comfystone.com/GiveNOLA Day Playbook.